strategic meeting with stakeholders on safeguarding the sexual reproductive health rights of women and girls with disabilities. This meeting was put together by the Network of Disabled Women and Foundation for Resilience, Empowerment and Development, FRED, and funded by EU-UN Spotlight Initiative project. And the meeting has two objectives: to identify barriers on the rights of women and girls with disabilities in pandemics, and to also map out functional strategies for safeguarding the sexual reproductive health rights for women and girls with disabilities. Background. Globally, the girl child with disability is disadvantaged and faced with much more difficult living conditions than her male counterparts face. One wonders why a vessel that is supposedly weaker will be made to cross-hurdle her male counterparts who are privileged to enjoy more financial, physical, societal, and economic prowess cannot cross with ease. It will be an understatement to state here that women and girls with disabilities experience all the concerns that their able friends go through, only in a much higher dimension. This makes them victims of double discrimination. Women and girls with disabilities who are not privileged to be born with the silver spoon are faced with lack of appropriate sanitation in schools, which make their menstrual life very traumatic. Women with disabilities are 3 times more likely to experience physical violence, sexual violence, and emotional violence than persons without disabilities. Women with disabilities in particular are up to 10 times more likely to experience sexual violence. 40% to 68% of young women with disabilities experience sexual violence before the age of 18, according to UNFPA statistics. Economic dependence, weak legislations, and irresponsive law enforcement agents are key drivers of SGBV among the disability community. Data on violence against women and girls with disabilities are largely lacking, making it difficult to assess the prevalence of this violence, its forms, levels, and determinants, such as what types of disability are most subjected to violence, who are the perpetrators, and in which geographic locations, among others. Nevertheless, the different stakeholders agree that violence against women with disability is more prevalent compared to violence against males and females without disabilities. Women and girls with disabilities experience many difficulties and inequality in both private and public institutions, with no access to adequate health care, education, and employment. They experience double discrimination, maltreatment, exploitation, sexual abuse, neglect, and others. During the pandemic, a rate or number of cases of violence and sexual abuse against women and girls with disabilities increased. And these are cases that were reported. Imagine the number of underreported cases and how these women and girls suffer in silence because they do not have the right information. Women with disabilities face multiple dimensional and multifaceted barriers and challenges in accessing their sexual reproductive health rights services. And these challenges are categorized as follows: state or national barriers, institutional or healthcare system barriers, individual level barriers, community level barriers, and economic barriers. State barriers means the lacking of political will on the part of state actors to initiate inclusive health policies, legislations, and framework, or implement existing policies, such as legislations and frameworks. Institutional healthcare system barriers is talking about physical structures, communication, and negative attitudes and perceptions. Individual level barriers means ignorance, illiterate population on disability and disability issues, low level of awareness, and all such negative attitudes. Community level barriers, low level of awareness, harmful traditional, cultural, and religious beliefs. Economic barriers talks about poor financial background and poverty situation of women and girls with disabilities. And this makes it discouraging for women with disabilities to seek medical attention even when they know they have the need for such health services. Recommendations. We need to map out functional strategies for safeguarding the sexual reproductive health rights for women and girls with disabilities. This is very essential in protecting the rights of women and girls with disabilities in the society, and this cannot be overemphasized. We also need data. We need to collect data on victims and survivors of sexual reproductive health rights that concerns women and girls with disabilities. We need female desk officers in Federal Ministry of Health and Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and our security agencies. We need to see organizations of women with disabilities being supported with funding and other employment opportunities. Our communications methods should be accessible and in an inclusive format. Capacity building, skills acquisition training, and employment opportunities should be created for victims and survivors of GBD who are women and girls with disabilities. Our national policies on sexual reproductive health rights of women and girls with disabilities should be simplified in different local challenges, and we call for the speedy implementation of these policies and laws. Health services, facilities, environment, security agencies, facilities, and courtrooms should be affordable, accessible, and inclusive for women and girls with disabilities. Our health professionals should be frequently trained on issues of sexual reproductive health rights of women and girls with disabilities. All GPV centers, safe spaces, responses, and prevention activities should be inclusive and accessible. We sincerely appreciate everyone that contributed to the success of this great event. More blessings in your endeavors. Amen. We want to state categorically that we are tired of being treated as second fiddle. In addition, we want everyone to know that the challenges of gender and disability are two major stigmas, too much for the average individual to grapple with, especially women and girls with disabilities, who are supposed to be the apple of the eyes of the entire city. It is our prayer that after today, positive consideration will be given to women and girls with disabilities in Nigeria and beyond. Thank you so much.